filozof Hegel pravi, da Minervina sova odpre krila takrat, ko pade mrak. Namreč govorimo o tem zato, ker se mi zdi, da naše razmišljanje, torej naše srečanje prehaja počasi tudi že v filozofiji.
We are talking about these issues because we have started to use philosophy more. A lot has been said about the topic I want to present. So what is the idea of the Mura River in the consciousness of the people living here? So I can be very brief and I can only share some impressions with you. Mura is not only a geographic term. Pomurje and Prekmurje are the ones more often used. In the central part of Slovenia, this is a synonym for something very distant, remote, in the times where in only one day you can reach the Atlantic Ocean and so on. But the empiric work, field work in Slovenia makes me believe that this area is still regarded as very distant parts of our country. What about the idea of Pomurje in our people living here? This is a basic, old symbol carried in these people. It means the identity in geographic as well as in other senses. Mura used to be a political border between two systems, political systems. At the same time, it was a border cutting this area into the Steierska region and the Pomurje region. This was a national barrier, so contacts were quite rare. And therefore, this area experienced its own spiritual development. The border of this oscillation was on the Mura River. We should ask ourselves whether the Mura was a strong barrier preventing stronger contacts. Undoubtedly, the Mura River itself, its meanders, evoked something giant, sometimes frightening. The Mura River was something special in the times of floods. There were special associations connected to such times. People could not forget the noise of the river flooding. This was something that was above them. This natural modification of the river has been mentioned several times. The occurrence of branches and dead ends, this enabled the economy to avoid long dry periods. So the Mura was a synonym of a vital force that man was dependent on. We can talk about a kind of religious awareness. The Mura, in its people, was a kind of emotional attachment. It enabled people's survival, the continuation of meadows, fields, and forests. The next question we are faced with is whether this permeability was really so strong, dividing Prekmurje and Steierska. Bridges were a strong connection, and there were rafts, there were pilgrims coming and leaving, and there was a kind of magic character. So there is a connection between the grain, cereals, and the final product, bread. As for fisheries, I would like to point out illegal fishermen. They used special nets. This is a kind of secret. It was fascinated, as Dr. Richterich mentioned, was this gold rush, a kind of gold rush, washing out the material. And another social phenomenon at the end of the 19th century, on the Prekmurje side, they set up a kind of stool hut. There were new connections established. We should not neglect weddings and marriages between people from Prekmurje and people from Steierska. When the river was frozen, they could walk across the river. There are data that also in the beginning of the 20th century, people were coming and wolves were coming from Hungary. And the women often gathered by the river, washing clothes and so on. So there are so many elements that are binding, that are connecting. We can conclude that Hungarians, Austrians, Slovenes and Croatians living along the Mura River is actually something sacred. This is something we need to bow to, or we should look up to it as something superior, something that deserves our respect. Undoubtedly, in my field work, I have noticed that the Mura is a kind of spiritual tissue present mainly in Croatia, in folk songs expressing joy and sadness. This is a kind of a metaphor. In Međimurje, people have a whole range of feelings when talking about the river. All people living along the Mura feel this river in a very special way, as the world of dreams, lyric landscape, the plain along the river, being a part of the internal circle, endless tides, waves, low and high tides of the Pannonian Sea, being a part of the horizontal cosmic perspective, placed into a special structure of vectors, like an incarnation of a Slavic soul in an imaginative world, as something contrary to irrational thinking. Thank you very much.